Oh yeah, let's do this thing. Sorry, I wanted to give everyone a little bit of a chance to enjoy the beautiful artwork that the community has been putting out there. We're gonna get started here in just a second. Hold on, I'm just pouring my seemingly toxic drink. It's crazy. Let me switch things up here. Not that loud, please. Jesus, that scared me. Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope we're all doing good. Ready for another Whip Wednesday. I noticed that the announcement didn't go out. So it's going to be a very chill Whip Wednesday. Yeah, also what I was talking about, like, look at this. Oh, that looks like unhealthy. I'm trying something new here, but ooh, we'll see. Saw the patch notes for the BE Academy. Sounds really good. I can't wait. Let's go. Yeah, the first people that we have with our first group for the Academy stuff is doing really well. So yeah, really enjoying our time together so far. The team, well, the four individual people, um, are doing a really great job already. We're currently at a stage where like the blocking phase, so like the color blocking and all the shapes and everything is done. Now we're getting into the actual production things. Um, so yeah. There's a lot more stuff, like I mentioned like last week as well. Like there's a lot more stuff that we need to build, right, in terms of content and lessons. But I think there's a lot of value that we're bringing to those people as well. So yeah, it's a really interesting experimental kind of phase that we're kind of going through now. Um, yeah, as you can see, if you're a part of the community and you read the patch notes, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that is just yeah, a lot of updates, a lot of work from everyone involved. Yeah, really cool that people seem to gravitate towards it as well. That's really good. And I hope you also enjoyed just the transparency, because that is something that I've kind of done a couple times before, but not to this degree. I really want to make it like a monthly thing where every at the end of every month, like we will be sharing an update. So literally just we've built the systems now. We're gonna keep using it, and then with that we can hopefully share more updates in the future. So every month, keep an eye out for those patch notes coming to you. Yeah, and I'll hopefully be more transparent and hopefully do more cool stuff, because sure, academy stuff is going on, we've got the workshops going on, there's other stuff that I want to work on and have been working on that I also want to reveal as well, but more on that soon. Hello Tika, hello Marius, hello Pewdie, hello Jack, and Kalen Art is back. Looks like a refreshing drink. Yeah, that's one way to say it. Is that Inca Cola? I have no idea what Inca Cola is. What is that? I'm curious. I can't contain my curiosity, so let me have a look. Inca Cola. Known as Golden Cola, is a soft drink invented in Peru in 1935. Oh. Oh, often compared to bubblegum or cream soda. Oh my god. No. It's not like that. Like just okay. Story time. Cream soda in the UK. From my personal opinion, because this might ruffle some feathers, is probably the most disgusting name for a soda ever. Like, honest to God. I've tried it. I don't like it. And I think a large part of that was already destroyed with just the name by itself. Like cream and soda, they're like almost opposites in my head. So yeah. Anyway, McFall saying, hello, is that new merch? It is. You're quick to catch on. I have like a batch of new merch, some stuff that we're testing out as well. There is actually one very experimental shirt that we just got that is Team Challenge related. I will not show that, but yeah, I'm very excited to see where that goes. The thing that I will say with that shirt is that now the second phase begins where the prototype kind of works. I can see the vision. Now I need to hire an artist to actually make it. That's the sort of ambition that I have with that t-shirt. These ones, self-designed. This is for like, Gamescom and all that kind of stuff coming up. So we've got like Beyond Extent up here. We've got like the logo in like the accent color here. We've got like Beyond Extent here. And then also the new slogan, I guess. Building talent that builds worlds. I like the ring of that. So that's sort of like the slogan that's going to be on the t-shirts. And then maybe what we'll do is we'll change the slogan. The slogan for, I don't know, for member shirts or something like that. I'm not sure. Perfect cheesy dad sentence. What you mean? Oh my god, you made it so much worse now. I feel ashamed. Thank you for that. Let's see. It's not the same as cream. Why would they name it the same? Man, yeah, that's the thing. Like, immediately the name was just like, oh no, no. Hello, Slade. Good to see you. Sorry for not replying to your message. I've been busy, but yeah, it's good regardless. It's just good. Yeah, I do like it. I do like it though. Like all jokes aside, I do like the little slogan. I think what I was trying to do is I was trying to encapsulate in one sentence what Beyond Extend is about, which is like really difficult to try and condense that to like where it's still like a readable size. Because even the word environment art would be like half of that sentence already, right? A hoodie would be sick. We do have a hoodie. That is also that's also in the new pack that we have. I have my old shirt. And I had to be somewhat self-conscious about it because I was doing so I think you must have seen this at this point on the stream. There's no way that this hasn't happened before. In my older shirts that I had, and I'm gonna be calling myself out here, but in the older shirts that I had, the fabric here completely ripped and torn to shreds. So there were a couple of times where I'm like, like scratching my head, and like in mentorship, you can see just like my fucking armpit sticking out. And I was like, okay, like we need to get rid of this shirt. It's gotten to the point where I'm like, do I like frame them up somewhere? Because this t-shirt has been through some stuff, like honestly. Well worn and loved t-shirt. Yeah. That is one thing that you'll never fault me for, is like throwing shit away early. I wear that shit down until it's like almost a rag. Yeah, so let me see. What was in the packet? So we had this t-shirt, which is currently my favorite. This was more like experimental. We have like a more traditional t-shirt with the white logo on top of it. I have like a personalized t-shirt as well for the convention. So there's one with like my name on it, and it has like the title here and then the logo on the other side. Then we have the team challenge shirt, which is like experimental. So we will show you that later once we've done, I don't know. If anyone knows an artist that does like some really cool like 2D stuff, feel free to share them with me in DMs on Discord. I would be highly appreciated. And then the last thing was a hoodie as well. So yeah, that would be something that that I'm testing out currently. I'm kind of testing out the sizes and all that kind of stuff and see how resistant they are. Take them to Gamescom, all that kind of stuff, and then we'll see what we're gonna do for the next steps. Fabian is saying I got laid off in February 2024 and I'm currently doing other work. I'm dabbling with web design, not feeling motivated though. No, sorry to hear that, Fabian. I'm sure that you'll figure something out though. I'm applying for a junior database programmer position and I'm hopeful, but I still want to get into the games industry. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing something different than getting into games. It's not a good time to get into games. I'm sure that next week we will probably be sitting here doing Whip Wednesday, and the first hour, we're probably going to be talking about what the hell is going on with Xbox, because there seems to be something big going on with Xbox. A lot of rumors flying around. The rumor mill is freaking active. Um, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen with that. But my hope is that a lot of people will get affected, but by the sounds of it, it's looking like a major shakeup. It's going to happen. So we'll see. But yeah, it's not easy to get into the games industry anyway. And then in this time period, it's even more difficult. So trying to find something else, or maybe even, kind of building up towards the skills that you can make your own prototypes, your own games, anything like that. That would also be kind of a recommendation too, so that you can be more set for the future, which in my opinion seems to be more heavily leaning towards like um indie rather than, well, not rather than, I think AAA is not going to go anywhere. Let's not make any excuses for that happening, right? Like AAA is going to find a way. They're going to shake things up, and they're going to be just fine. But I think what we're going to see is a lot more people just being, yeah, just being innovative, setting up their own things and doing more of that stuff. I think we're going to see more of that in the future for sure. Hmm. The only thing I can think of is making my own indie. I should have mentioned I was employed for 3 years for a developer, but got discouraged. Yeah, I mean, are we talking like developer as in like game industry job, or any other type of developer? I mean, I'm assuming not games industry because you just told us so. But Lily is saying there's so many Darius puns you can put on a t-shirt. I know, but I don't want Darius to like sue me, because he strikes me as a busy, a savvy businessman as well, like one in disguise. He's gonna be sneaky about that stuff. Um, yeah, for popular mobile games. Oh, okay. So yeah, you were a developer in mobile games then. Cool. Yeah, I mean that seems to be like a more stable industry financially, right? Because it has so much, yeah, so much more capital going in. The margins look way better and healthier in like mobile. But I mean, we're all in the same industry, so I'm assuming, yeah. Oh, got bought out by a bigger company. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's usually like the most insecure time, right? Massive shakeups happening because restructure happens too. Yeah. Still sorry to hear that, man. Sorry to hear that. But yeah, I think, in my opinion, I think we're just gonna see more and more people doing like making their own games, or taking the route of like Roblox, building their own games, using that as a springboard to start your own kind of studio, doing that kind of stuff. We're going to see a lot of movement in that space, where I think movement in AAA is going to be largely static for a while at least. Because honestly, what we've seen a lot is that, sure, there are slowly but surely, I don't want to get everyone's hopes up, but like we've seen slowly but surely a little bit more junior positions opening up. I've seen them going about a little bit, but it is not to the same degree that it was before. You know, not to the same degree that it was before. And I'm really doubtful that we're really going to see that back. Um, yeah, but we'll see. It's hard to speculate on the future. But my assumptions, or like the way that I'm thinking about this now, is that we're seeing a lot of really interesting plays happening in smaller indie space. Not that that is any easier by any stretch of the imagination, right? So um don't have any sort of like, I don't know, don't think it's a shortcut into the industry or something like that. It's fucking hard work, regardless of where you go. But yeah, I think that's where a lot of people are aligning to more like smaller indie developers, double A developers. Like, I don't know. That seems where the wind is kind of blowing more interestingly. Mm-mm-mm. You guys say inside, I'll barely get through it and find a job anywhere as a junior and try regardless anywhere. Yeah, I mean, yeah, 100%. Like, try anywhere, regardless of what the position might be, right? I mean, within your niche, right? But just apply anywhere. I think that is timeless advice that's going to hold true in this weather as well. And again, I think I'm seeing positive signs of like companies stabilizing a little bit, right? Um, I think a lot of I think for a lot of companies, the major shakeups have already happened. I really think that just, yeah, I don't know. At least that's my hope. That's my hope. Apart from, I mean, what we're seeing in the news now with Xbox, right? We'll see how that one shakes out. Hello, Rio Mendez. Good to see you. But yeah, unfortunately, I mean, it's not happy to talk about it, but that's just the current state of the industry, right? And I think a lot of people are still finding success. It is just within AAA, it was already becoming like way trickier before, and now, yeah, it really is. And also here's another thing, right? I think the way that I always look about this is going back to when I was going into this industry. AAA was the place where you could be stable, where you could be secure, and all that kind of stuff because you had like a steady paycheck. Where comparatively to like an indie game, you're like, well, the indie game might be like trying to do their own thing. Um, might be trying to do their own thing and get their project launched, and then if they're successful, there's lots of benefits for you, but it's a massive gamble, right? So a lot of people didn't go into indie or smaller studios because of that reason, because it was like a large risk, right? Now we're on a level playing field with AAA, right? The difference between the two is way less different. Sure, if you're working for some AAA developers that have a good track record and they have a good publisher and like all those relationships, blah 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 blah, you might still be in that like old school position, but I think that's like fair and few in between. Um, And the reason why I bring this up is because I think for a lot of people, what is happening is like, ooh, AAA was always a way to de risk my career. That no longer exists in the reliable ways that it did before. And that's why we're seeing so many people just giving the indie thing a try anyway, because, might as well do it, right? Because of that. Kickstarter was such a good idea for those things until they got abused too much. Well, I think I think with Kickstarter, it's always interesting. Like you hear about the successful campaigns, right? Um, but if you look at Kickstarter, the way that Kickstarter usually works is you need to have a lot of industry experience already and be like sort of kind of like a known figure in the industry to kind of kickstart it, right? Or you need to already have a lot of your game already done, and then Kickstarter is like a way to like push it over the edge, like because people go on Kickstarter to kind of, I mean, it's not even to Kickstarter anymore, especially for games. It's more like, okay, I can see the vision, like it's visually in front of me, and that's what I'm gonna buy into. I think the old school days of Kickstarter, where it's just like, oh, like I got money lying around, I'm just gonna give like $50 to this game, and then we'll see where it goes. Like that sort of stuff is also done. Because yeah, there's actually some interesting. God, from who was it again? I think Obsidian Games, they did a Kickstarter for Grounded, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I am. I might misremember this. But there's actually some really interesting developer interviews about when they use Kickstarter and that they always underestimated how much work it was, because then you have like your backer goals and you need to have constant communication and you need to have your goals all lined up, and there's like it's almost like you needed to have like a separate thing going on just to run the Kickstarter. Um I just felt it took a heavy hit after Ashes. Well, no, like scandals like Ashes have always been there. They've What was it, like Illyria was like also like a big MMORPG that just like fucking tanked and did kind of the same thing. Sure, Ashes was I mean, if you start looking into it, like it's freaking chaos. Um but yeah, I mean, that is the thing that got like a lot of views for sure. But that sort of thing, you know, the Kickstarter not working out because of X, Y, and Z reason has always kind of been a thing, you know. Um, yeah, yeah. I'm really curious. Like, I'm really curious where the future is gonna go when it comes to, you know, indie people trying to self fund the game. There, it looks like there's a couple of opportunities, right? As in you have the on-ramp with Roblox for younger kids becoming developers now, right? You know my stance on this already. We don't have to go into it. But I think just that being an on-ramp for younger kids trying to get into game dev is actually like pretty interesting. And then we'll see if they grow up to then build their own games on, I don't know, Unreal or Unity or whatever, right? And then it seems that Unreal wants to kind of do the same thing. So maybe their thought process is like, hey, look, if you grow up and become like a serious developer, you can make the switch to Unreal and then develop your own standalone games using the platform that they're currently building, right? So that seems to be an interesting future opportunity. But yeah. Yeah, and I think I wonder I haven't looked into this, but I would be curious if there's people like self-funding games, like through Patreon and all that kind of stuff, and then doing very public development and doing it that way. I've seen it on YouTube, right? So like on YouTube where you have developer diaries and all that kind of stuff, and you have some like pretty popular ones. But I wonder if some people do it through like a really well-funded Patreon or something like that. The guy saying Sockpop, I've got no idea. That would be something to look up. Let me make sure that we have a look at that. A video game boy band from the future. They're kind of in a way still sustained by Patreon. Yeah. Okay, so I see. We're making 100 games subscribe for like $3 a month. All right, that's cool. That is cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they have like almost 5,000 members, making around like 4,000 a month. Yeah, that is pretty cool. Yeah, I think that is an interesting thing, especially if you want to do like self-funded and you're doing like solo dev or like small teams, or maybe you build up some momentum with doing solo dev, then get seen by enough people so that they support you more, and then have enough money in the bank at some point to kind of branch out and maybe hire some freelancers or start building a team around it. I think I'm curious if people are going to be successful at that. So they make small games and you can play them when you pay for that month, etc. Yeah, that's interesting, right? Because the issue just in general, right? And this is also something that we run into with Beyond Extent, right? Is that it is a subscription service. So people do have sort of an expectation of like a monthly thing, which you kind of then have to build your business model around in some cases, right? So let's say small games, I don't know how many they release, like a year or something like that, but there is that expectation of getting like frequent returns, right? Or relatively frequent returns. Yeah. Hmm. Let's see. I haven't touched Maya in about 2 years. I'm a part of a small freelance team that is currently remastering the Time Splitters Rewind, slowly getting motivated. That's good. Good to hear it. So you're still in touch with game dev then? So that's pretty good. Because honestly, sometimes the best thing to do is keeping one foot in the water with this kind of stuff, right? And keeping yourself motivated. Honestly, for the large part for me, that is just personal work, right? A lot of personal work during my like 10 years in the industry has just been the fuel that I needed to take me through like some like unpleasant periods. Yeah. Let's see. Slate is saying I started putting a small portion of my time into learning scripting to make a game in the future. Feels satisfying to learn something other than just environment art. Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think again, it's so difficult to predict the future, right? And the reason why I'm really interested in this conversation specifically is where do you position yourself for the future? is because obviously I'm sitting here and people sort of rely sometimes on my advice, for better or for worse. And I'm trying to be more accurate and being more helpful in the future. So if I tell someone like, hey, if you want to get into AAA, you should specialize, which is true, but how long is that going to be true for? You know, so it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, to get into AAA, like you have to specialize. That's the majority. It's always going to be true. I think that's just the nature of like big teams, right? But I'm just wondering if it's better to then spend time on generalizing more, being more flexible, and being able to build your own games to then build your own company that way, or hope that you can get into a AAA developer, right? I don't know. To me, it almost feels like the pendulum is kind of slowly swinging over to the other side, even though the other side is like, again, not easy. Scripting will be good because Epic is deprecating blueprints in a couple of years. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that one. We'll see about that one. I am very wary of any tech company, especially in games, deprecating like a core feature that a lot of people are using. Because so think about this, right? So there might be an expectation of some of their close partners to keep some of those features alive. To keep some of those features alive because they're actively developing a game and they need to have some bugs fixed, right? And if you think about the average time that it takes to make a game now, let's say 5 to 6 years, right? It's almost that everything that needs to change needs at least that amount of time to be fully phased out, at least, right? So that's the kind of way that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, but learning scripting is a good thing. I think that's very valuable. 34 right now, landed a job at 29, and now I'm going through a strange period. Been dreaming about gaming since the age of 23, and trying to get back at it is eerie to me. Are you talking about like getting back into the industry or like getting back to gaming itself? Just making sure, right? Because I mean, yeah, if literally the dream is for you to make games, I think it might be a good idea to potentially open your horizons and be more versatile to your future, that it's going to be more diverse and kind of diversify your skill set a little bit. That would be my bet. That's sort of if my aim was to be like a full-time developer and I already had like industry experience, right? I would probably spend a lot of my time not doing environment art anymore. I would try to diversify and see what else I like in the space, and then I can be more like a well-rounded person and start doing my own stuff or something, you know? Um, Beyond extent, to a large degree, is kind of like trying that for business, right? I never set up a business, no idea how that works. So we're gonna just set up a business and then we're gonna try it. We're gonna try it. And I think I don't know, maybe it's not advice, but from my personal opinion, especially if you have experience in the industry, that would be a good thing to do. Just try to branch out and try different skills and become more relevant in multiple disciplines so that you always have like a little bit of a backup too. But yeah, again, hard to predict the future, so we'll see where that goes. Conceptual Religion is saying, I took just on the program so I can communicate with programmers. Scripting, I feel, gives you some of that under the hood knowledge. Yay! Guys, all AAA is cooked. We're currently in the time period of where the old dies in AAA and B studios become the new AAA. I don't think so either. Like, I don't like black and white statements like that. Do you think that like EA is going to go anywhere? There's no fucking way that EA is going to go anywhere. There's no way. Sure, maybe the old system of like the reliable pipeline of going to AAA that might be gone temporarily, but there's no way that like AAA is dead. Like something in general just doesn't die immediately on the spot, right? It usually goes through like a really prolonged transition period, and that's what I'm trying to get at, right? Is that we're currently in that transition period, and the to that degree, I agree with you, right? Like old AAA is done, and now we're seeing like a new AAA being formed out of the ashes, right? But the old AAA studios are also going to be a part of that like new AAA thing too. Um, but when I say in the industry, I feel like this is the only path. Like I mentioned, I'm currently a web developer for my current job, which is fun. Along that, I do video and photography as a side hustle. Yeah. Okay, you're already doing a lot of stuff then. Already doing a lot of different things. Yeah, that's cool though. That's cool. Rio Mendes is saying, I'm going to start my first portfolio piece at 3-month window. I want to feature an environment with a few Houdini PCGs, and then I plan to sub to get some of your feedback. Do you have any advice for me? No, just on that little bit of information. No, I don't really have any information or like feedback for you. Not currently. Well, I have some like pretty generic advice, right? Make it small, do one camera, and don't try to learn too many skills in one go. That's it. That would be my very high level generic advice that I can give. Keep it as small as possible. Focus on one thing that you want to learn and push yourself in. And yeah, do it in one camera angle. That's it. It's probably a good pathway to success right there. Right. For people that are new to this, people to ask any questions. We're going to be diving into some feedback in just a second. It's going to be a pretty short feedback session today because the announcement didn't go out, so we have less people today. I think we only have 7 people today, so it's going to be pretty short compared to the 20 or something that we're going to be doing. Fabian is saying thanks from California. Take care, man. Yeah, thanks, Fabian. And thank you for sharing your journey. And again, sorry to hear that you got laid off. It's not a good time, but I'm sure that you're going to get on top of it again. So keep strong, dude. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah. God, what else has happened? Oh, there's actually one thing that I've been kind of getting into. So, for portfolio reviews, by the way, I just want to make an announcement. This week, portfolio reviews, this Friday, I'll make an announcement about it properly, but we are not going to do portfolio reviews this week. So keep that in mind. Friday, I will be unavailable. But talking about portfolio reviews, I am actually looking at a lot of examples of really interesting breakdowns and presentations and, like how to present your work and all that kind of stuff. Because, again, it's portfolio reviews, right? We talk about the same stuff. What I want to do is on that page that we have on our website, I am starting to add a couple of pages where I'm going to tell you how to make a breakdown with a couple of templates. I'm going to tell you how to do a presentation for assets, for materials, for all that kind of stuff. So those are some things that I'm kind of having some fun on the side. Yeah, that's what I'm currently looking into and building up as well. So I've been gathering a lot of examples. The last portfolio views are missing on the site on the channel though. Yeah, there's something annoying going on with that where it will automatically put it to unlisted like afterwards, which is like really annoying. And sometimes I forget that I need to change that to public again, but it does it on every video. So yeah, thanks, Beauty. I appreciate it. So this is also a call out. If you ever have any cool breakdown that you've encountered, and maybe you're one of those like ArtStation goblins that just like grabs all the breakdowns and saves it into like a playlist or a collection, I guess they call it. Feel free to share with me, like because breakdowns specifically, like really good breakdowns are like pretty difficult to find. So if you have any of your golden nuggets, then Feel free to share it with me. Look at the ones that. Oh wait, I do have a collection. I saw. Um, I cannot remember, and I would probably not reveal their name even if I did. But there was one person that we were doing. We were sharing. We were sharing our screen, and they had an abnormal amount of collections with an abnormal amount of like artworks in each collection. Like I'm talking about like, let me see. Let me try to not over exaggerate. Let's say at least 20 collections with like a couple of collections with multiple thousands of like artworks in it. Um yeah, that was mental. Because for comparison, like what do I have? I think on our station I have like my likes, right? Which is the thing that I use the most. I'm at like 2,000 likes for like liking other people's work. Never use collections really. So like my biggest collection currently is like, well, it is likes. It's 2,400 projects that I liked. That's it. But yeah, that was fascinating to see. Owen posted in Discord his work. I like his breakdown very muchly. It's like a tutorial. Oh yeah, Owen did post. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Hold on. Give me a sec here. Let me just open it up. And Owen's work will be added to the introduction for the stream next week. Yes, congratulations, Owen. Let me give you some additional traction. I mean, most of the people here are going to be from the community itself, but if you're here watching afterwards, go check those things out. Let's see. I'm curious to see the breakdowns because we've seen sculpted and textured the two big cakes at the bottom. That's awesome. That's fun. Okay. I want to see breakdowns. Where are they? Okay. Let's have a look. Okay. That's cool. Some of these shots look really nice. Like the detail shots with the lighting hitting it and that angle looks really nice. Without the snow mesh, with the snow mesh, and then some dithering on top of it as well. Want to be masking. Yeah. That's good though. Yeah. Great job, Owen. Yeah, it's all the cool stuff in there. Yes, yes. Let me see. What have I been gathering? Let's see. Of course, there's like Indiana Jones stuff in there. But these are some of the things that I've been gathering in terms of like breakdowns. And here's the thing: I'm trying to be very specific with what I'm gathering, right? So because for some things, I like the way that they, for example, present the assets themselves, right? So for example, this asset, there's like a section in here where this as an overview is great, right? We got wireframes, UVs, we got the base color, texture size, triangle count, one image. Beautiful. This is the sort of examples that I'm looking for, sort of like containing everything that you kind of want to see. And then we have some cool stuff like this as well, just like flipping the resolution to kind of see like, hey, this is what that looks like. Same thing here. I thought some of the presentations were good. But I'm trying to be like very specific, right? So for example, this is also really well done. Where it's just like, hey, look, these guys, the bigger ones use like a 2K, the medium ones use like a 1K, and then all this other stuff use like 512. It would still be nice to see the texture atlases or something like that, because I think that might have been interesting to do here. But anyway. Yeah, some of these presentations are like pretty good. So yeah, if you have any recommendations, feel free to DM me about it. Would be cool. Geez, I've been collecting Artems for the past couple of years in a folder. I checked it out now, and 71K images. What? What? That's mental. Are we talking about 71K like artworks or images? Because 71K artworks is even more mental. TGA students always do good work. Yeah, I agree, and I think the same can also be said about, let's say, the IA students. There's just like a couple of universities out there that put out really good work. However, I will say that even if they do really good work, a lot of people still underestimate doing a good breakdown. So you can have students that do really good work and then still kind of make like a crappy breakdown, honestly. There are some pieces that I encountered today where I'm like, dude, this looks so good. And then you scroll down and it is literally just like screen grabbed like breakdowns, but I'm just like, oh my god, come on. You put so much time and love and effort and all in like your beauty shots, and then you do nothing to your breakdowns. And it's so because that is like shooting yourself in the foot. You know? That is so painful to me. Because the way that I always think about that is there are going to be recruiters or people in a position to hire you that are going to be looking at that and they're going to feel the exact same as I do. And they're not going to give you the position. If you did a proper breakdown, it doesn't even need to be like a fantastic one. If you do a proper breakdown, you could have gotten the job. And sometimes I'm like, no, come on. Anyway, so this is what I've been gathering so far. With very specific examples. I will share more of this stuff in the future with all of you because I don't want to just give you like a bunch of links. I want to give you templates, examples on how to structure things, and also break down like, hey, look, I think this is fantastic, but this is missing like one thing here or something like that. Is there a proper breakdown in Academy coming soon also? What do you mean? Oh, from the students that we currently have? Yeah, I would hope so. Oh my god. Yeah, we're gonna make sure that that's good. You had some good ones in your PDF. I've looked at. Oh, that's true. Yeah, I could go through that as well. What is a MIP? If you know what an LOD is, so like a level of detail, a MIP is the same thing but for textures. So MIP mapping is basically the further it goes from your camera, the lower the resolution of the texture will be. Which usually is done automatically, right? Same thing with like automatic LODs in like Unreal, but you can build your own MIP maps and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, MIP mapping is basically what LODs are for geometry. MIP maps are the same thing for textures. So a lot is from the same project. It's a bit handy now because I want when I went to check something, I can go to different games of a certain style. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. There's also like aliasing and other things that are affecting it, right? Yeah. I mean, there's like different ways that you can do like your compression settings and stuff, right? You can also, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff there. Yeah, but the act of MIP mapping is just like crunching down your texture size. But you are right. Like anti-aliasing and the way that you then resample the data, all that kind of stuff already has an effect on it. Especially for foliage, by the way. The way that you do your MIP mapping for your textures can be the difference between your trees almost having no leaves and your trees having like full leaves at a distance. Because of MIP mapping. I am too stubborn to try and make a 3-month game jam environment. Am I too stubborn to try and make a 3-month game jam game environment my portfolio piece? Well, I don't know what it looks like, right? 3 months is a long game jam though. But usually a game jam has a very different purpose towards you building a portfolio piece. So my general recommendation, not even looking at the thing, would probably be no. But that depends on what it is, right? It reminded me to go back and check out some BCG and Nanite for the foliage stuff for Unreal Engine 5. Oh yeah, they're doing like the PVE stuff, right? Which is like procedural vegetation editor. Like that's like a new thing that they're doing. And then you have like your voxelization for like your foliage LODs. I think that's already available in that too. There's like a lot of interesting stuff to play around with when it comes to foliage for Unreal. I do want to play around with that stuff too. That sounds like pretty interesting. Lily is also saying, I got quite a collection of prop art, environment art, and concept art. Also a bit of material collection. Nice. Awesome. I will receive anything that is useful to you. So if you got any cool links, feel free to just like use our DMs as a dumping ground of cool stuff for cool breakdowns. Do you have anything for Twinmotion? Nope. Nope. Nothing for Twinmotion. Galazar, sorry, I didn't see you in here. Welcome. Good to see you. YouTube. Lily, you said bet, and it it automatically converts it to but. I swear to God, I really need to desperately find this like auto translate tool that they have in like the chats because it is absolutely horrendous. Currently doing a contract for CAD related drawings and converting them to Unreal or Twinmotion, not entirely environment art for games, but getting there. Yeah, I think once we get to, I can almost guarantee you that we're never ever gonna touch anything with like Twinmotion because there's just so much stuff to explore in games that we're probably not gonna have the resources to ever expand to like everything else. Honestly, not that I even want to anyway. I'm innocent. Hello, MSR. Good to see you. But yeah, so that's also a thing that I've been working on. That's more like a little bit of a fun project where hopefully I can have like a couple of like mini lessons on like, oh, this is how you make a breakdown. Here's my recommended like format and like all that kind of stuff. So that hopefully we can really dramatically increase the presentation of your portfolio pieces, especially the breakdowns. Cool. And also included in that, which is pretty important, and I try to remind people of that like every time when we do portfolio reviews. Why do we do breakdowns? I think that's something that is like not really talked about, and a lot of people don't really understand why they're doing the breakdown and why it's so important and why I keep nagging about it all the time. So I'm going to explain that in those lessons too. Anyway, enough about that. So let me move on to some Whip Wednesday. So if anyone wants to jump the queue and wants to be seen first, let me know by raising your hand in the chat. Boom. Hey Tim/chat, I'm participating in the competition. The brief is a prop from the 1800s to 1925 antique. Any ideas? So you're doing the Sierra Division challenge, right? I had some. No, I don't want to spoil anyone else's ideas. No, I don't really have anything that comes to mind. I'm honestly not that good in that time zone. Coleman is saying I might do cabinets. Found a funky and simple item to do. Let's go. Tika, you're raising your hand. Are you even in the queue? Did you? Because I don't think I saw you in there. No. You forgot your tag. You posted yesterday. Not again. Oh, okay. We'll see. We have like we don't have a lot of people to go through today, so we'll see. And sorry for not making an announcement about it too. Normally I have the announcement that goes out, but that should be back since from next year. Next year, last week. Cool. Didn't know about it. It's all good. Right. So we'll have to skip Utica. We'll see. We'll see at the end. Dennis is next. So, oh, we're always looking at you, Dennis. Cool. Okay. So your focus is basically, let me read your full question because there was like a little bit of content to it, right? So let me read the whole thing. Give me a sec. So you're basically asking, my main question is, do you see any fundamental issues that would prevent it from being portfolio ready? And if it is close, what would be the single highest priority thing I should fix before calling it done? So whenever we get to the end stages of a project, I would want to focus more on post-processing and the colors and the mood and anything like that, right? So that's what we're seeing here. If we're doing any final changes, I'm not going to recommend you a whole bunch of changes apart from all this stuff. So it is literally just looking at like, okay, where do we focus things in the environment through our values, right? That would be a good first thing. And if you want to check your values again, the best way to do this is to just like duplicate this. And then we can literally just turn it to black and white. No, that's not an effect. Black and white. And that gives us a look at where our values are the most contrasting, right? Or the brightest. I think this is ages ago. We spoke about this in like an earlier session, but look at where the brightest points are. And look at if that correlates to where you want the viewer to look, right? Because you've got some like pretty interesting stuff going here with like the dog on the sleeping mat and all that kind of stuff. But most of the attention is being diverted away from it, right? So that's something to think about, especially in these like very bright areas. They take up a lot of our initial attention. So that would be one thing to think about when you're doing a value check. That's basically also what I mentioned here. So this is where the focus goes currently. I would say retain the God rays, because the God rays, like they allow you to like look at like the dog sleeping on the floor and all that kind of stuff, right? You did that on purpose. Let's retain that. But reduce the highlights coming from the brightest spots, right? So the values here, look at the brightest spots and how bright they are and try to reduce them in some way, right? Because we still want to have the light coming in, but we don't want to have those bright spots just coming from the outside, right? So for example, in this case, what that might mean is just put like a tree in front of like the brightest spot, and that is probably going to solve it already. You can do the same thing above the door here as well, and that's probably going to help a lot already too. Cool. There's also another thing. Let me turn off some stuff here before I show you this. There's also another thing. When it comes to post-processing, I think what has happened over time is you slowly but surely started to desaturate all the colors in your scene. And I think it could actually be good to go back to an earlier iteration. So for this thing, for what inspired me was really just like an earlier iteration of your own work and kind of looking at like how vibrant and alive the colors were. And this is where they are now, right? I personally think that it could be nice to bring some of them back. So here's my adjustments. Right? So it is intense. It is it's almost like the polar opposite of where you are now, right? But what this does is it brings back the cozy vibes, like the yeah, it just feels like nice. It has this warmth to it. It feels very personal. It feels very cozy. The dog is chilling, you know. It kind of feels like it's in tune with the scene a little bit more, right? So what I did here is let me disable like all the layers. So first of all, I just increased the vibrancy of things, right? So you can kind of see that here. These are all just like changes for the vibrancy. What does that even do? Yeah. And what I also did at the same time is I love myself some good color contrast. So we increased the saturation of the yellow light coming in, right? Kind of increasing like the mood. What I also done at the same time is I tried to push the bluish colors and added like a little bit of a purple mix into like the shadows as well. So we're getting like a more interesting color palette on the whole scene. And then I just at last point I added like a vignette into it. This is like a thing that you just always do with like anything. It's a bit strong, but that's something that you can tweak to your liking, and that just helps us focus towards the center of the frame, right? So yeah, those would be my changes, and just to give you a look at it again. So this is your iteration, and this would be my iteration. Just bringing back the vibrancy, going for that cozy feel, more saturated colors, really leaning into how cozy and vibrant it feels. But of course, this is an art direction change, right? If you're like, don't like it, I kind of want to make it like, I guess like, what would be the best way? If you wanna have it more, if you wanna give it more of like a somber, down to earth kind of tone, you can kind of go back to your previous iteration if you wanted to. Because that's the thing, right? Like if you go with like these saturated colors, usually that in a literal sense that kind of means that we drained life from the canvas, right? So we're kind of taking like all the emotion out of it and we're trying to make it like grayish, where this does the opposite. So yeah, let me bring all the stuff back. So yeah, that's what I would focus on. Just simple color changes, looking at your values, thinking about the mood, right? That's because when I think about colors, they go hand in hand with the mood of the scene, right? So my thought process of increasing the saturation of the colors was not only because I looked at your older work, but also because um the entire scene is kind of set up as like a cozy, nice place, right? Which to me calls for cozy colors and like warm, fuzzy, nice feeling colors. So that's what I would focus on, Dennis. Or I keep mispronouncing it. Denise? Apologies for the mispronunciation. Yeah, that's what I would focus on. But yeah. It looks, just from like an execution perspective, right? Like all the stuff that I've done on top of it is relatively simple, right? The execution of the assets, the way that you textured everything, looks really nice, really consistent. I can tell that you added a lot of love and a lot of passion into the project. Because it comes down to like all these small things, right? Like the cable system, it kind of makes sense, and you have like the fans, and looks so good. So yeah, great stuff. Great stuff. So yeah, thank you for sharing it. Yeah, a couple of quick changes can make a whole difference. Cool. Who do we have next? So Megfile is next. Thank you so much. No worries. No worries. Great stuff. I really like it. You've done a fantastic job on the whole scene, so you can be proud of it. Now it's just like pushing it over the finish line, right? Because I also, I guess, I'm prying, but I don't mean to pry really, because it's been a long time since we've seen the scene, right? So I think I don't know what happened, but I'm just trying to encourage you for like closing it down and like publishing it so that you can be like nice and at ease, because it is worthy of being on there. It is a really good piece. It deserves to be on your portfolio. So definitely post it. It's a me, Macpal. Let's have a look. So Macpal is next, and the feedback on the changes compared to last week on the stuff that has changed. Cool. So you're gonna get on the polls and the flags after this. Okay. So I ignored the flags and the polls, and just went for some like more generic things. I love how crooked and organic these like barriers feel. Looks really nice. So yeah, great job on like the variation that you added there. I think that looks fantastic. Be careful though with the roughness variation, right? Because you got some like really strong like roughness variation between what I assume to be like newer paint and old paint, right? So be careful with that. But the material itself is starting to look like really nice though. I really like it. Let's see. Oh, there was a small thing here. So you have like this nice little gradient on like your hero asset here, right? The gradient that kind of blends the asset with the bottom of the ground. Try to use that in more places. So use the same technique on this as well, so that we can have a little gradient kind of taking up the bottom here. Especially around places where it intersects with the floor, right? So the interior is probably going to be grimier than the exterior, right? Because it interacts more with people just walking on the bridge and kicking stuff about. I had an initial reaction to this where it was weird that it was just missing one piece here. I think it would probably probably more interesting to do something like this, maybe. So that we can still make sense, like it's still attached, but it kind of broke down on one side, maybe. Maybe that's the way to go. Or maybe I don't know, we have like a broken up section here and like a broken up section here. Maybe. But that's more work, right? So I don't want to give you more work regardless. Yeah, maybe we can do something like this because it almost feels like it's too clean. And also the expectation is that this is connected somehow, right? So we're probably gonna expect to see like a little hole inside of this barrier too, right? If the whole thing is missing. So that would be a way to cover it up at the same time as well. Yeah, it's small stuff, but that can really make a difference, right? So same thing here. We would probably expect to see like a little hole that the peg of like the wooden barrier kind of goes into or slots into. I'm just gonna call this how it's made. After one of my favorite TV shows that I haven't watched in like a decade or something. But yeah, thinking about like how things are made and then try to replicate that, right? Can't put a decal or something that works as a whole. Yeah, or maybe you could potentially get away with like smart unwrapping. I don't know what you have available in your textures, but maybe there's something that you can do with just like cutting in like an actual physical hole and then unwrapping something that already pre-exists. Maybe that's something that you can do. And then the other thing that I would say is, yeah, more volumetrics. I can't remember if we talked about that already, so I'm just gonna say it again. Where, yeah, just smaller volumetric like fog volumes that can really add like a bit of depth into the scene, especially in areas where you kind of would expect it, right? So like this area here can add like a little bit of subtle fog. And maybe use that same fog to maybe create like a separation between this and that, but maybe we have like a very subtle sheet of fog behind here to kind of push the separation between those two layers. You think you got one there, but it's toned down way at the moment? Yeah. Yeah, I think I can see something happening here, right? But yeah, that would be something to play around with as well. Got some fog cards I can try to implement as well. Yeah, I think honestly, fog cards are always a good idea to just enhance the depth of a scene, because right now we are getting some like volumetric scattering from the sun coming down, but there's no like local kind of fog to separate the foreground and the background a bit more. That would be an interesting one to add. Yeah. But otherwise, doing good stuff. I like where it's going. Keep it up, man. My scene is a perfect example. For local fog, you mean? There's I wish that I kept some of the overpaints that I've done for the team challenges, or the before and afters for the team challenges, because some of them they looked completely different. I'm gonna see real quick. I wonder if I can get something back. Let me actually have a look. I'm curious now. So if I go into the voice chat here. All right, maybe I'll use this as an example. I don't really have like a good before and after shot though. So let me see if I can find one really quick. I'm just scrolling up through like the massive amount of messages that they sent. Hold on, just bear with me. I think this could be like a really good example for what some fog cards can do. I'm probably not going to find one real quick. Dang it. Okay. That would be actually like a good one to find some examples for. Yeah, maybe that's a good one. It's a good one to capture some examples for. So you're saying that shit looks flat without fog? Yeah. Talking about your own work, right? From back in the day? Yeah. Back in the day. Just your most recent work. Yeah, but it really does. And especially with the tools that we have now. Oh, this is okay. Well, we're gonna take a slight detour. I'm gonna make it short. That is probably the thing that I'm like most excited for when it comes to the updates of State of Unreal. Like it might sound like I'm exaggerating because like they made like this whole big deal of like Unreal Engine 6 and like all the stuff that they've been doing. But the most exciting thing is that in 5.8 they added blur in your volumetric fog. So that means the further you go into your volumetric fog, the more it starts blurring things together, which is like really normal in like actual volumetric fog, but didn't happen. That is in now. That is probably, and it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but that's probably the most excited thing that I've been excited for like a while now with Unreal. Because that shit looks so good. I wish I could say more on that because oh my god, yeah. There's some NDA stuff that I want to talk about, but I can't. Oh, but I will soon. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see. Thanks. Most of the stuff has models and textures now, so we're getting close to the end. Yes, getting close to the end. That's good. Yeah, good stuff, McFal. I know this project was like a roller coaster, but we're nearing the end, so that's good. Moment is next, and then Parzani. We forgot to tag it up again. So you're not in the running either. Let's see. We'll see if we can do it at the end. Okay, cool. We got moment first. I did not do an overpaint. Must have skipped that then. Let's have a look. Main shots are decided with my mentor. Pretty much anything that is standing out or immediate red flag that you can notice. There's two things we talked about before I haven't attended to yet, which is the Ivy base color and the drifting decal we highlighted. I definitely want to alter the sky color and see so that we can see more pockets of blue and the sky is not as bright. Yeah, that would be a good one. I like that a lot. Anything that is a red flag. Okay, maybe a couple of quick things. I think one is still relevant to what we said last week, right? That is the door. The door, for whatever reason, like remains an eyesore because it, at least to me, I don't want to be harsh with my language. Apologies for that, but my eye just gets drawn to it like immediately because it stands out so much. The rest of it has like a lot of layers and detail and all that kind of stuff, and it feels like the door is like a relatively basic texture. I would probably even consider. Oh, it's going to be too noisy as well. I was going to say cover it up with ivy or something like that, or just make it a blank wall. I don't know. There's something still about that door that needs some work to me. That would be a thing. Or maybe we can lift like this section here and just add it here as well. Maybe. I don't know. Whatever's the quickest fix, really. Still stands out. Like the textures still feel basic here. I don't know why. I feel like I'm focusing so much on this door like every time. But yeah. I don't know if it's me. Because I'm curious. I'm curious if your mentor agrees on the same thing. If he finds or if they find that it stands out as well. So that would be a good question to ask them as well. The other thing is also we have some like really strong shadows on the clothes here. I will ask. Yeah. Ask them, see if they feel the same way, and then we can kind of fix that up too. Those are like the two new things that I'm like focused on, right? Because you've done the adjustments. The cloth is like kind of ripped now, which is good, but it introduced some like strong shadowing, which looks like very contrasting towards like compared to the whole scene. Subtle little thing, but I like what you did with this trim. Looks way better than it did before. I think these are like two opportunities for decals as well. So in general, what I look for is consistency. Consistency in terms of surface detail. Right? So if you have something that has like lots of leaks and decals and all that kind of stuff coming from it, but the top face of it feels very barren, that is just hinting at like an inconsistency between the way that it's textured, right? Because if the thing that has like a lot of leaks coming from down below it, that means that the thing itself is also going to be grinding as shit, right? Because we have like all these leaks that have been built up over the years. So the stuff on top of it is going to be grimy as well. So I would say anything in the scene, focus on consistency of details and texturing. That's what I would say. Ambient occlusion. Yes, yes. Cool. Thank you, woman. Thank you for sharing your work. We're going to the next person immediately. So we have it's free roaming now because we've got Tika and Barzani both at the end potentially. We'll see. So let me see. Yamar is saying anything that sticks out. So I made a couple of notes for you. I would say in this case, I want to see you push the focal point more. The focal point right now is pretty subtle, right? Because you've got some light coming from inside, but it is, if we look at the whole scene, it is barely visible. So I think we can push that like a little bit more. It doesn't have to be a lot, but yeah, just pushing that a little bit can help us a lot already. So let's see what I can do here. Probably going to be midtones for this one. That is just going to do. That is not going to look good. Yeah, that's probably something that you have to do in like Unreal. I'm not going to faff around with that too much, but just increase the light intensity coming from the inside a little bit. Yeah. So that would be the first thing. So that's option A, push the focal point a little bit more. Option B is look at all the dark areas that you have and be careful with really dark values. In an environment, even though it's dark and it's almost like nighttime or something like that, right? You don't want to have almost black values anywhere. So especially in regions like this where I almost can't read what is happening here, slightly increase your skylight. Give it a little bit more information that we can have a look at, because there's a couple of areas where it becomes like pretty hard to distinguish between different shapes, right? And that can be applied across the board. So be careful about that too. And then also, this is a tiny one, but like you have like this option here with this, I call it like an artiste shot, you know? It's just like, ooh, I like this like singular viewpoint from the top of the roof. Yeah, be really selective with the way with how many images that you pick, right? I think some of them are like great because you like them personally, but I sometimes they just don't add like a lot of value to your ArtStation post, I feel. And yeah, this might be one of them, right? So it is obviously very personal, but always look at the entire batch of pictures that you have for your portfolio and be very, very, very specific with the ones that you want to showcase, right? Because we talk about this a lot in like portfolio reviews, where sometimes you scroll through like someone's ArtStation and there's a lot of stuff to scroll through and it just becomes like filler, you know? That's not the feeling that you want to have, right? So less is more. Because I also made a note here that your weakest shot is the one that they will remember, right? This is also really important. Usually the way that things are structured, can't really come up with an example for a medium, but across different mediums, and this might even apply to like series and all that kind of stuff too, right? Is that you have a really strong beginning, so the hook, and then you have all the way at the end, I don't know what the word for that is, but like at the end you have a strong finisher, right? And then the stuff in between sort of can vary somewhat in terms of quality, but you still want to have some like a high quality bar for that too. But I think here what that means to me is that it's almost I'm almost looking at this as if let's say you have this in your portfolio as the last shot, then it's like, okay, that was kind of a throwaway shot compared to the other ones, I feel. Because the other ones, there's like a lot of stuff happening. We can kind of see where it is in the scene, and then we just have like one camera just looking up at the sky. Hope that makes sense. Yeah, being overly critical about like one single image, but that's honestly what you have to do. Yeah. Good stuff, Helmet. I honestly, we didn't even talk about this. Like all the new assets that you added look freaking awesome. I loved all the new additions. Great stuff, man. It's really starting to fill out the scene. I really like where all this is going. So great stuff. It also adds like a nice pop of roughness as well. And this is something that is sometimes difficult to highlight, but when you have a scene where the majority of the components are made of very dull materials, let's say wood in this case, right? Then adding something that adds a pop of roughness in there and is more shiny always works really well. It's the contrast of a dull object next to a shiny object. Those two things, they call for your attention and it feels good. Same thing with man-made and organic structures. Combining those two and having that contrast in your scene always creates interest, right? So this is doing the same thing here as well. Cool. Good stuff, Helmet. Great stuff. If you add a middle gray layer and use the screen in Photoshop, you can easily turn opacity up and down to check the blacks. Ooh, that's a good tip to check there. The guy saying, it was not smart for me not to do anything because I kind of wanted my gun to be finished before Brighton on the 11th of July. Since I'm going to take a bit of vacation as well. Yeah, I mean, you still got time, right? Like, I think the gun is like getting quite close to being finished anyway. I'm assuming. I mean, I haven't looked at it yet, but I was kind of following up. Tobaji is saying, I heard shots that has more sky is discouraging because we want to see your art, not the sky. Yeah. I think so. There's a general rule, right? Like 70-30 can oftentimes be applied to like where you put your horizon line as well. And that can be applied here, right? So this is oftentimes in concept art. This is like a very common thing. And again, I'm not a concept artist myself, but it's almost always advised to either put like your horizon line here or here. Those are some like really nice guiding points to see where your horizon line should fall, right? So in this case, the entire shot is almost it's looking up and the horizon line is like out of view, right? That's something that I also use. It applies way more to like concept art, right? Because you have to set up your perspective and all that kind of stuff. But yeah. Cool. Yeah, good shit. Let's go. Oh, sorry, Slate. You were saying for the recommendation from Moment's work for the wooden door that we were talking about, you can use Megascan textures as well. Yeah, potentially you could, even though I think it has more to do with like the layering of different effects that are already present in the scene, right? Because in Moment's scene, for example, there's a lot of things already available. We just need to balance them and overlay them in different ways to kind of get what we want, I think. Ba-da-ba-bum. Okay, cool. So Hazina just replied to me as well. So what could I improve on a little more? I mean, just a little? Let's have a look. I think it's looking pretty good, my dude. That's looking pretty good. If we're gonna be nitpicky, and I will, then I don't know what this is. Is that like a baking or texture issue? It seems like there's something going wrong there. Same thing here as well. And if we're gonna be again really picky, there's some. I think I'm assuming it's gonna be a baking issue or a mesh shading issue. where you might have set this to like a hard mesh and then baked it, and then it just came out weird, you know, in the bake. UV unwrapping might also be it. These ones, I'm not sure about. This is almost like a triangle sticking out from like the main mesh or something, which is weird. I don't know why that would happen. Same thing here. I have no clue what's happening here because there's no damage, right? So this is not like an inset into the mesh. This is just like stuff sticking out of the mesh, I feel. Let's see. The rest of it's looking quite nice. I do like the way that you textured everything. It's looking good. If there are like a couple of areas, and I don't want you to rebake anything, if there's a couple of areas where you can kind of make some simple improvements, wherever you have a cloth, like a piece of folding cloth, just have a sort of a bump next to the cloth, you know, so that we get like a little bit dip, because now it kind of feels like it's just too straight. Doesn't feel like cloth. So you can kind of have, I don't know, something like this, and then it kind of curves up. And you don't need to do anything for this, right? Like if you have like a couple of vertices here, just move them out a little bit more. Just made like a little smiley here. Yeah, tiny stuff. I think the rest of it is looking really nice though. Really nicely done. Random inverted triangle? I don't think so. Maybe? Maybe. Who knows? Because this would not be like a cut in to the mesh, you know? If the triangle is then inverted, you would expect it to show up differently. Or maybe I'm just overestimating the poly count, or like the topology of the asset. Anyway, that's something for Adzino to figure out. Yeah. I think you've done a fantastic job, man. It's looking quite nice. I like it a lot. You really push yourself with this one. You know, it's not easy to do anything like this. And I think the texturing is coming out quite nice. I think you've done a good job on it. So, yeah, a couple of small issues, and we're probably going to keep it at that. Push the cloth a little bit more. The broken phrase is creeping me out in a good way. Yeah. It is good. Yeah, that's the thing. Cool. Looking great. And you know what? Here you go. You get a star. One of the famous BE stars. You get one. Cool. Thank you, Hatsino. Great stuff. Looking forward to seeing the breakdowns. You know, good breakdowns. Let's go. See you guys saying, "Ooh, rare sticker." I should only make. I should make some like cute designs for these. I feel where I can just have like, you know, like an actual sticker that I slap onto it. That would be fun. Yura, yes, you are in the session. I don't know if I answered that before. I just reminded myself of your question before. But yes, we are looking at your work. So some generic kind of feedback, or general kind of feedback, not generic. I made a couple of notes here. Again, it is really interesting. I'm looking at my screen and it's way more visible than on my Wacom. I need to increase the brightness or something like that. I need to have a look at this. But let's have a look. Yeah, I think both screenshots, both scenes look great, right? I like the moodiness, I like the lighting, I love how you've done stuff. Oh, Right. Okay, we'll talk about this later. But there's only like a couple of small things. You said that you wanted to replace the character models, and I said, yeah, no real need to replace these models in my opinions because they're so far away. I honestly didn't even realize that this was a character. I think, again, I like how subtle it is without them being here, you know? It's almost like you just have like these roaming spirits and they're just like wandering aimlessly and they kind of fade out. And it's almost like you can only see them in the corner of your eye, right? That's the sort of feeling that I go for. Where if you then put something in the middle, to me, it kind of ruins that I guess fantasy or the mood of things, right? Maybe something to think about. Maybe you feel differently, so feel free to use your own judgment on that. And I would also slightly increase like the foliage up here as well. I think you're doing some really cool stuff with the foliage here. Just increase it slightly so you have like more stuff coming down from the hole and also just like hanging from the ceiling a bit more too. I think that could be pretty cool. Now down here, a couple of smaller suggestions. The lighting and the composition is really well done. So first of all, really good stuff with that. A couple of smaller additions that you can potentially do here is this wall, because we are shining a light on it, or literally, that is calling out. You're basically doing a call out for that wall section. And to me, that wall looks a little bit flat. I think in the darker areas, if we were to look at this stuff, that feels okay to me. When it comes to this area, it feels like a little bit flat. So I would expect to see more POM, maybe like more work on your height map, maybe, because I think you might have POM, but then maybe you make another variation of your height map that has a little bit more exaggeration in your height map. With more height variation. Because yeah, this kind of feels like we're kind of looking at like a single mesh. It's kind of, that's what it's given me. So yeah, try to use like a different height map specifically on this section, or I don't think that's going to work necessarily because I can kind of see a slight color difference between your main stones and the actual stones already. I was going to suggest maybe just add like a couple individual stones that kind of match the patterns very specifically and kind of have them stick out that way so that we can add additional detail using the individual stones, right? That might also be a good backup for this too. Because yeah, the rest of the wall looks quite nice. Maybe it is just literally this specific section of the texture that is just like, I don't know, it's missing something. Yeah. And also the other thing here is maybe a little bit more dirt blending, because you have a lot of like physical dirt coming up, but then there's no blending when it goes from like the actual dirt to the stones itself. So just having like decals that could kind of hint at like more dirt being blended in certain areas, that would be nice. So basically going from the physical, like the actual geometry, to blending it with like surrounding surfaces. And then you can kind of use that here as well on the floor, kind of blending everything together like really nicely. Yeah, that would be my feedback. A couple of small little things to work on, but honestly, really great job. I think I said it last week. I think you've done a fantastic job on setting the mood for this piece. So yeah, good stuff, Yura. And last from the queue, let's say, we'll see. We'll see if we're gonna have some time for Tika and Barzani, I think, if I remember correctly. But first, we'll talk about workflows. So Jack of Diamonds is doing some workflow breakdowns, doing 3 separate elements. So ignore this section. That is my section. We're just gonna focus on this for now. So Red is a set of unique wooden elements baked from like high to low poly after sculpting them with ZBrush. Green is a tiling plank texture that I would use on surfaces made of wooden boards. And yellow is a simple wood texture for beams and planks with slight geometric variations and simple chamfers. Okay. I've been experimenting a lot together with like mentees and my own work, and I've come up with like a new workflow for this. I mean, it's not a new workflow, but I think something that's going to be a bit more future proof. We're basically going to lean more into using geometry over trying to turn everything to flat textures. I'll explain why. So a lot of this right now, using trim sheets and flat textures and all that kind of stuff feels last gen and not really like prepared for the future, especially for bulkier elements. For example, instead of only doing like one beam on the end and then another beam at the bottom, I would honestly use beams on all these elements that are made out of wood and then have a flat texture of plaster behind all of it. That's what I would do. The way that I would do this is relying heavily on level instancing and stacking them inside of each other. So what that means is that if this is your set, right? So I have like a beam, I have a large plank, and I have like another beam or something. I can then combine that into a wall piece, which then gets added to a level instance of a building, right? So this entire building is one large level instance that is built out of multiple individual level instances that can then be repeated multiple times, right? The reason why I'm trying to set up this like very complex kind of way of working is because I'm trying to leverage as much instancing as I can. Which means that all the individual beams and all the individual planks, most of them are just going to come from the same source asset, right? And then all of it is going to be packed into a level instance that then is going to be stacked into like another level instance. Whereas the old school method, or a more old school method, is that if you have this wall, this would just be like, let's say, wall 01, and this would be like a unique FBX with like everything baked down into it. The issue with that is that this now becomes like its own instance with like all the information, with all the model information like baked down into it, right? So these two pillars, they just become part of the mesh. And then we can't leverage any instancing that happens within like level instances. I had a question about that before. Oh, did I miss a question that you had before? Sorry about that. So you assemble it in a blueprint? No, level instance. So a level instance, think about it as like a small level that you can dynamically load into your level. So for people that use Unity, think about it as a prefab, right? It's basically like a collection that you can just like add a bunch of stuff to. The issue is with blueprints specifically is that they are made to drive logic. They're not made to drive a lot of assets. That's why level instances exist, because they needed that for the Matrix demo, where they were doing all the buildings in that demo are all made out of relatively complex setups of level instances that are just like stacked inside of each other. I understand what you mean. Build a kit of reusable elements first, and then use those pieces to assemble the modules for the house. Yes, 100%. Yes. Because the old workflow, that's the thing that I was kind of explaining here, is that you just combine everything into one, and then that becomes your modular kit. I think with us being more flexible with geometry going forward into the future, well, already now, I guess, but more in the future, we can lean more on actual geometry rather than trying to fake with tileable textures and all that kind of stuff. There are certain elements. So, for example, these like repeatable planks up here, making that into a tileable texture that has some POM makes a lot of sense, because that detail is going to be inset into a wall. Wherever we want something that contributes to the silhouette, we would probably need to go with geometry compared to POM, right? Because POM is really good at creating depth when it is, especially when it is inset into a surface, because we can't see at like all the glancing angles and stuff. So that's when it's really good at faking this stuff. Yeah, so that would be a little breakdown. I think it might actually make the whole process a lot easier for me. Yes, that is the idea as well, right? So it's like really refining the workflow around the idea that once you have your kit, once you have your Lego pieces, you do all your assembly inside of Unreal, and it makes it really easy to then do updates to your assets in Blender, because your assets are not going to be complex things that you've already pre-assembled in Blender. They're just going to be your Lego pieces. So yeah. Cool. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. All right, let me see if we can sneak in 2 more people for this session, because we had a low amount of people anyway, so we can probably sneak in 2 more people. It's probably going to be quick, but we can make it work. And then we've got Barzani. So we've got Tika, we've got Barzani. Right, let's have a look. Let me see. What can I even give feedback on here? So, updates on some renders that was missing. I was also trying to do a wireframe, but it didn't really work out as I wanted, since it's quite low poly, but I have other issues. Then I create a wireframe material, it becomes a bit wonky and broken. It becomes like as if Unreal itself just refused to use polys instead of assets itself. I have no idea how to fix it. Wait, if this is just like a technical question, Tika, I'm going to refer you to just troubleshooting, honestly. Because first of all, I have no idea about the specific issue, because it's been like way too long for me to like even remember the wireframe trick. Not really. What is it about then? Because I don't see a question in there. Come on, Tika. Help me out here. It's mostly to do with lighting and how I am showing the lights good. And how I am showing the lights good. It's more about how to showcase my prop. Okay. So let's grab a couple of images here. I feel like the last time we talked about this, we talked about the same thing, no? Let me see. Let me get some images in here. That's the wireframe stuff. It's probably not needed then. Oh, this is Barzani's file. You need to go in here. The wireframe I'll ask somewhere else, don't worry. Yeah, it's just because I don't know the specifics of it, right? So I can't really help you with that. But yeah, the troubleshooting channel would be a good place to ask anything like that, because other people in the community might have a good idea on that. Let's have a look then. Yeah, I think that looks quite nice. The only thing that I would say here is, and this is not only going to be a lighting, but if you're doing detail shots, we're going to have to scrutinize some of the edges here, right? Because especially around here, what's my color? Especially around this area. What is that even? That's just shadow, I think, right? It just happens to coincide with like a little edge there. But here, well, even here as well. That's where we can see your topology. Topology. Gotta think about that. Because the rest of the gun is so well done, right? Where we can barely see like any topology at all. That the places where it does kind of stick out, like these two places, gonna have to be a little bit careful with that. I think when it comes to the lighting, I think what I would say is pay attention to these sort of areas where you probably want to have like a rim light to the back of it to separate this object a little bit more from the background, right? Because in certain areas, you have elements that are kind of blending together with the background a little bit. Dun dun dun. Same here. That's probably going to benefit from like your rim light as well. This is not blending too much with the background, but that will just like create like a nice highlight here too. Makes sense, but do I bake them again, or can I just add more edges now on top of the final mesh? I wish, I hope that you can. Let's say that. The reason why I'm slightly concerned about it is because let me actually see. Oh no, these are like separate things. We might actually be good. You might actually be lucky. Yeah. I think you're good. So we can just add like more polys and just like be very specific. For example, we're seeing a lot of hold on. Give me a sec here. We're seeing a lot of this bake here, right? So I would move this like slightly back as well. And then in certain areas, you're just gonna add like one angle or like one cut. Same thing here, same thing here. I think that might be fine. And then probably with this shape, we just wanna tuck it more underneath this main shape here. Right? Because as soon as we tuck it under, it's gonna be like nicely aligned with the top surface that's gonna be next to it, right? So I think you might actually be in the clear. We're just moving the topology rather than rebaking it. Cool. I would potentially try to have like a light coming in from like this side. Whoop. Because now we kind of have, yeah. To kind of give like a nice highlight to, again, like all these little edges here. Right, and make them stand out a little bit more. So try something to highlight like more of these edges. And frame them nice silhouettes. Because I mean, it's a very stereotypical thing, right? Like you have like your, for anyone that's wondering about like the basics of lighting, a 3-point lighting setup is a tree, not an actual tree, but like a 3, the number, a 3-point setup. Just a good refresher for anyone, where you have your acid in the middle, you have your key light coming from here. So this is like going to be your main light. Then you have your fill light, which is basically gonna help with making your main shadows coming from your key light less strong. Right? That's its main job, and to kind of create like a fill for the other for the entire scene a little bit. And then we have like the rim light in the back, which is that the job of a rim light is basically just to highlight the outer edges of this prop so that it stands out from the background, right? That's a job of a rim light. Cool. But that's all I have to say about this. So always try to think in those like 3 little lights that you need. This is going to be really helpful. I'm also thinking, hmm, yeah, there's something interesting going on with like this edge specifically, where I think it has to do with the placement of the light, just like weirdly highlighting the way that the normal information is kind of curving around it. Because let's say if you have like a light coming from this angle, you would expect the highlight to be on this curve, but it's not. It's only on the main surface. So I don't know. That's something to look into because that specific normal on the edge here looks a bit weird. It's almost like it's kind of bending inwards onto the handle. That might be something to look into. Mm-mm-mm-mm. So instead of the middle, I was trying to. Oh, let's see. So instead, for the middle, I was trying to more foreseeing how the angle of the work would bounce from the edge work as well. But valid, I can also have an extra light. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you're doing a good job at like highlighting like all the beautiful sculpted stuff that you've done, right? Now it's making sure that the rest of the scene doesn't feel like a little bit too dark, and that we highlight like some of the edges as well, kind of complement all that stuff too. Because I think the rest of it, like in these detail shots, like you're doing a fantastic job of highlighting the key features. It's now just like rounding it off and like kind of making it feel nice. Yeah. Cool stuff though. Cool stuff. Awesome job. And I think honestly, like if you spend like a couple of days working on this, you do a good job in breaking all of it down. You're ready for um yeah, you're ready for God, what's it called again? Brighton. Develop. Then it's just that, and then it's finished. Yeah! Congratulations. Closing to the finish line. And then last one for today, we have Parzani. I am sweating here, so hold on. Where are you in the list, Parzani? There you are. Okay. Copy and paste. Oh, there we go. Took a while. Don't do that, Tim. All right. So, hi, Tim. Hope all is well. I took your feedback on board. This one like a week and a half ago, I think. I made a few modifications to compress the space. My main questions are for this week: does the blockout still look solid enough to move forward, and do the proportions and the scale feel right? Let's focus on those two things. I do think that the scale and the proportions feel like pretty good. I'm pretty happy with them. If I can suggest one thing that might potentially save you like a lot of time and effort, this building over here might be annoying with the pedestrian area. I would honestly just like rotate that 45 degrees so that the building kind of cuts off this viewing angle. And then you don't have to be worried about like anything in the background anymore. Because now we basically have a lot of stuff that we need to build over here for no gain, where we know that we're going to have to make this building anyway. So if we just like rotate that, block off that street, well, not block it off, but like have the street coming in at like an angle, it's still going to feel natural. And I think we saved ourselves like a lot of work at the same time. Um, and an additional thing there, make this building block long viewing angles. An additional thing there is if we rotate it, then we can actually showcase more of this destruction that you're planning to do because now it's becoming more in focus, right? which is something to also consider how that's going to be looking. Um, yeah, a couple of questions. So the biggest question is, what's the focal point? Where do we want people to watch, right? Or where are we looking? Well, where do you want us to look? That is an important thing because a lot of what's happening here is floor. So I'm not sure if that is going to be like a more interesting thing later down the line, or if something's going to change within the scene. Because right now, maybe this might become more interesting, but then we still have to deal with like a lot of dead space over here, right? With all the cobblestone. Yeah, because the thing that I always suggest is think about a story, right? Like, what is a story that you want to tell here? Story, story, story. Really important. And it can be like, hey, this city is under siege, and they just took down like the main statue on the main square, right? And people are like really pissed because I don't know, they just start a new war or whatever, you know. And then we kind of can play into that by playing into, okay, so we have like this statue that was here, and now it kind of just like collapsed onto the floor, and then we can do some like really cool blending with like all the stuff that's happening here, right? I was hoping to add a lot more destruction. So here's the thing, right? And this is something that I do want to explain to more people. Um, the core reason why we do a blockout is, first of all, to find out what you said it already, right? Your proportions in the scale, really important with the blockout. Secondly, with a blockout is um kind of figure out exactly what we will be building and how it's going to look and how much space it's going to take up and all that kind of stuff before then dedicating a lot of time to it, right? So if you're saying, oh, this scene is actually going to feature a lot of destruction, I want to see that destruction in the blockout so that we exactly know what we need to make that destruction, right? Because this almost feels like the scene right now doesn't feel destroyed apart from the one building, which kind of feels like it's out of place, actually. So to bring it back, like I would love to see more destruction already present in the blockout to give us a better idea of what needs to be done whenever we go into full production, right? So yeah, again, think about the story, right? Because you wanted to add more destruction, but why is that destruction there, right? What is the reason of that destruction? Is it because this city has been decaying over 10 to 20 to 50 years? Or is it because they literally just got invaded last day and now they have to deal with a lot of imminent destruction that is happening, right? Those two things are both destruction, but they will look completely different, right? Um, one could be literally like, let's say like Cuba, like Havana, right? Look at that as inspiration. That is like slow, just restricting of resources and all that kind of stuff, leading to like urban decay. Um, a very unfortunate urban decay because yeah. Anyway, um, or you could have something where it is more akin to like World War II, right? Destruction still, but they have different things. So I would say in that case, think about what kind of destruction you're going to be building and think about why that destruction has happened. That's hopefully going to be really helpful. The rest of it though, like the scale and the proportions, that's looking quite nice. Um, so yeah, done a pretty good job on that as well. One thing that I would say is, and this might be a thing for you to think about already. how do we break up modularity? Right? This is a giant block of buildings that looks really modular. How can we make it feel more interesting, a little bit more unique? Maybe that means that one of these things is going to be, I don't know, like an entrance or something like that, right? You have like one of those like balustrades that kind of sticks out, and there's going to be like pillars, and there's going to be like an entrance like underneath it. And maybe, I don't know, like a sign or something like that on top of it. I don't know, something to think about to kind of break up the modularity, because modular kits are awesome to make something way efficient, really quick, but they kind of suck at making something look interesting, right? So think about like what can we add to that modular kit or that building to make it more interesting. Beauty saying, I've always wondered why people add mannequins as a scale ref if we make everything in real life proportions and sizes anyway, or is it placed usually for something else? No, because it gives us something to compare to, right? Because sure, we can build everything to like real life sizes and proportions, but if you're building a ton of stuff, sometimes we just don't know the real life sizes or proportions, right? Plus, also, especially in more production, in your average production, your real life references, let's say the door height of like 2 meters 20, is going to be irrelevant because they're going to have their own kind of measurement set up for anything that they do, right? Um, so yeah, it's always good to have like the mannequin as like a benchmark asset to kind of look for and compare visually how things compare to each other, because sometimes you might add a door in a scene and you're like, wait, this door is like feels really small, even though it is accurate to real world proportions. It might feel small, and obviously I'm an artist. I tend to lean more into like what feels good than what it is accurate. Another example for this would be PBR values, right? There are charts and charts about like accurate PBR values for base colors for any texture you can think of, right? However, you can use that as a starting point, and then you still need to balance them towards what you think looks good in the scene, right? Same thing with proportions, especially on projects like this. So yeah, it gives us a reference point that we can just reference to all the time. So yeah, because sometimes we just don't have the proportions. On the main reference near the statue, there was an execution. On the main reference. Oh, so you're just going for that concept straight up? Is that what we're doing? This is the concept that you're rebuilding then? Because if so, that makes sense. Um. Oh wait, one more question then. Are you going to be doing? Um. Are you going to be doing characters? I also love this guy just like A framing, just like idle pose, just standing here. We're like, hey, don't look at my face. Just smushing the helmet on top of his face. Oh my god, is this a concept of a 3D piece? I think it's like it used like 3D as a base and then concept on top of it. Okay, so you're not gonna do characters. The reason why I ask is because most of the interesting stuff that happens here is character based, right? Which means that if you want to have this story, the story of an execution cannot survive without characters in it, right? Because they're integral to what is happening. So we need to think about another option for you then. If you're not going to use characters, we then need to think about like, okay, how can you represent this in a different way, right? That's where maybe my idea of like a statue falling apart, like just collapsed in front of it, could be pretty interesting. Um, you could do just the remains of a blood pool, right? But I can almost guarantee you that like even if we make this like pretty interesting, like we have a lot of space to fill here, right? That is my main concern. So we can have like a blood splatter and there's like a blood pool here and then there's like I don't know some like blood streaking here. But then we're asking a lot. We're putting a lot of weight on a pool of blood, if that makes sense. We're asking a lot from like all this blood that's happening here, right? That is the main concern that I have. Is that we have to fill up such a big space with something that is supported by characters normally. And you don't have to make characters yourself, right? You can get characters from like big, medium, small, or anything that you can find. You can build your own like mega meta human ones, right? That could be like a fun challenge. I wouldn't advise you to make them yourself, but there could be interesting things to do there. But yeah, I think if you're not gonna add characters, then we need to think about like, okay, what can be the replacement for the big space that we have in front of us? So that would be something to think about. And then again, try to tie it to a story, right? You can do some cool stuff with protests rising up because the city has been in ruin for the last 50 years and like people are not getting their way. I mean, there's a lot of current day politics that can be very relevant to this idea, right? People are struggling. The people up top get richer, blah 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 blah. Now they're rebelling. There's massive protests breaking out, and that could be like one of the things that you can visualize. Um, yeah, cool setup, Barzani. Like from what I can tell already, like a solid looking block out. I like the attention to detail that's in the modular kit already. Really good. So now it's about infusing it with a story that kind of makes sense for the lack of characters, right? And then also, how do we add some unique elements to break up the modularity, right? It doesn't have to be a full entrance. It can also be what you see in the concept, where you have like fabric from scaffolding and boarded up housing, and then maybe some like destroyed the cars that you have from like Fab or something like that. You can come up with some cool stuff. Cool. Thank you, Parzani, for sharing your work. And just a reminder, next time, tag it up, baby. Tag it up. Cool. And that's already at the end. That was a pretty chill session. So, um, yeah, that was nice. Even though we talked about a lot of doom and gloom in the beginning, which is unfortunate. I wish that we could have just like fun stuff to talk about. Ugh. Ah, but yeah, we'll make it through. Amazing feedback, Tim. Appreciate it a lot. No worries. No worries. And then same for you, Tika. Yeah. And I will. Awesome. And have fun at Brighton. Just a reminder for people that are still here. This Friday, no portfolio reviews because I will be out. So just making sure that everyone knows that. Again, I'll make an announcement on that in the Discord as well. But just take care that there will be no portfolio reviews this Friday. And that's it. So I'm not going to make it any longer than it needs to be. I am going to chill out a little bit before I can do some more work in the evening. So I wish you all a nice evening. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time a lot. And then we'll see each other next Wednesday. Bye bye. Oh, and of course, enjoy the beautiful art from our community.